So some of you may be asking yourself, why would somebody leave a perfectly good job? Just like the passage aligned with my leaving, there were too many things that I couldn't ignore. Believe me, I do my best to ignore God just like the majority of us, but every once in a while, God grabs my attention. I'm called to be a priest, and there are times when God calls. Doesn't always make sense in the moment, but it is important to pay attention. I typically find out that it makes sense in time when things unfold. There's always an unfolding. You're never quite sure why it is God has called you, where God has called you, but pay attention. It is important. My time at St. Luke's, I am grateful. You all have embraced me and Tracy and our children. There are not many places that would have cared for us during the ups and downs of the last 3 years. But the fact that you have embraced us has given us a renewed faith in the church and in God's people. Our decision to leave hasn't been easy or made flippantly. I want to thank you for affirming me as your rector and as your priest, for walking with me on this journey. You seem to have known what is best for me and for my family. This has been a great gift, and I hope you realize how rare this is. Jesus says to his disciples, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows." The Revised Common Lectionary has been a great gift in the last 4 weeks. I was hoping to preach themes that I have found important in our ministry together over the past 3 years. God has provided these scriptures for our use. Now, in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus gives a wonderful word of encouragement to his beloved disciples. Here he encourages them to continue the work of the gospel, not be afraid, and that their work is not dependent by his presence among them. It is Jesus, the cross of Christ, and the love of God to which the disciples, although they don't know this when Jesus is telling them this, but this Jesus, this cross of Christ, this love of God, to which the disciples, including the pastor and preacher, must always point towards. And it is the responsibility of the Christian community to follow Jesus along the way. If you came here this morning hoping for a substantive sermon, I hope you will forgive me. I am exhausted and sad and challenged to give you much this morning. I think what I want to talk to you about right now is gratitude. At the beginning of the great Thanksgiving in the Book of Common Prayer, we hear the celebrant say, "It is right and a good and joyful thing always and everywhere to give thanks to you, Father Almighty, Creator of heaven and earth." I am truly thankful for the many wonderful people that I have met here at St. Luke's, for the members of this parish, and for the many wonderful members of the community that is Bartlesville. You have given me an opportunity to learn and to grow as a priest and as a Christian. You've allowed me to be with you in your ups and in your downs, and we've had many of those both along the way. You've allowed us to minister together, whether hosting the teachers in the wonderful walkout that resulted in some change in our education system in Oklahoma. We walked together in ministry when we fed families and hosted families for Family Promise. When we were teaching the youth about the ambiguity of our faith We're learning to do online worship. Again, we walk together and learn together. And there were so many other wonderful times and difficult times where we worked together. Jesus challenges us when he says, "Whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it." Always like to remind folk that Jesus says something important here that is often misquoted. He says, take up. The cross is something that you take up. It's not something that is laid on you. It's not a suffering that you are required to endure. It's something that you actually take up. You pick it up. You decide to walk with it. And when you do that, those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for his sake will find it. My encouragement to you this morning is to not overfocus on finding your next priest. What I would encourage you to do this morning is to keep your eyes on Jesus, and all will be okay. Amen.